Okay, so I'm here with Bobby Pook, who works and owns Sumo Crucial Media, which is based in the northwest of England. So I'm just going to run through some questions with Bob that I think some students have expressed sort of keen interest in hearing about. And I'm sure sort of you'll do some interesting and insightful thoughts and tips about how you can get into the industry that you works in. So I'll start you off with a nice, simple one, Bob. Can you tell me a bit about your job title or role and sort of how that works?
Yeah, of course. So I guess I'm classed as like a sole trader videographer and photographer, which means that I don't necessarily work. I work for myself, but I also have like clients who I, work for on a regular basis and stuff like that. Yeah, that's basically what I do, but it covers a lot of different things, which I guess I'll get into in a little while.
Great. So can you give me an example of some of the clients that you've worked for?
So yeah, I mean, for quite a number of years, I went self-employed probably like 11 years ago. So for a number of years, it was fairly small clients or bands or basically anything to make the business work financially. But of the last, say, 4 years, I did quite a lot of work for Live Nation at first, which was just going to shows like Noel Gallagher we did, and I don't know, Britney Spears and a few others. And I would just go and film little bits for them and stuff. I got Royal Caribbean shortly after that. That was through Live Nation. And then I've been doing a lot of work recently for this company called Duxiana, which is like a Scandinavian furniture company. So I fly over to wherever they are in Europe and do bits for them. So yeah, there's quite a lot of clients, especially in the last 4 years until the recent pandemic that's made everything quite hard. But yeah, it's been growing and growing, which is good. And yeah, to be honest, years and years ago, I probably wouldn't have dreamed of having some big clients like I've got now. So I'm pretty happy about it.
So you kind of managed to grow that quite big then from a sort of small start, because some of the companies you mentioned there, like obviously Live Nation, for any students that don't know, I mean that's a really enormous sort of live music promoter. They do things worldwide. Work with obviously some of the biggest artists in the world. Royal Caribbean, am I right in thinking that's cruises, is it?
Yeah, so they do cruises. I do their cruises where they have like music themed cruise, so it might be like a 90s themed cruise or a musicals themed cruise or something like that. But yeah, massive client for a sole trader to have as well. I mean, normally these clients would, for video work, they would look at hiring like a video production company, which I guess would cost them a hell of a lot more. So that's the sort of in that you get as well. But I mean, it's all through luck and meeting people and showing them a good product for what they're paying and stuff, really. But yeah, definitely some massive clients to take on my own. That's not saying that I do all of it on my own though. I mean, some of it, if it's a multicam, like we did a sort of fake live stream for a company called EBS the other week, which is a bartending mixology course that's worldwide. It's massive. But I then had to quote that job, which is probably the biggest job I've quoted for, which was for 4 cameramen, like a director, also everything. So I wasn't editing that, so it was getting sent off to Sweden to get edited. So that would then all go into a sort of like a main box where all the cameras would be synced, so that when the editor gets the footage, everything starts from zero and he's not having to kind of sync audio with video and stuff like that. So yeah, so that in terms of like hiring, I mean, I have a few people that I know that are like friends and do the same thing as me, that I hire and they hire me. So we all help each other out in a way as well. I had no idea who this was before this job got booked, but I'm at James Martin's house on Saturday. I looked it up and he's like a chef on ITV. But
okay, yeah. So interesting. So just for the benefit of the learners again there, so when you say quotes, you're talking about sort of giving a price, right? For
yeah, so there'd be 2 ways of, and I mean, again, like this took me years to know as well, but there'd be 2 ways of that I would do a job. One of them would be like an agreed hourly rate, and then one would be what's called like on price, which is like a quote. But sometimes I might be like, oh, well, this job is going to take this amount of time. It's this many people. So to the client, I'd say it's going to be around this amount, you know. You can do it on price, you know, just like bang on, this is exactly what it's going to be. But then there's little things that you can't take into account, like how much travel it's going to be for other members of staff, or little things. But I've never had any problems with clients, you know, having issues with invoices or anything like that.
Yeah, it's just interesting to know, because obviously a lot of the learners won't have gotten to that stage yet necessarily where if they're doing freelance work, they're starting to charge for it. Perhaps there's obviously a lot to be said for doing things free to get exposure at first and that sort of thing. But it's interesting to know that, you know, that's something you do yourself as a sole trader and sort of self-employed.
I still do stuff for free now for exposure. Or to help someone out. Like obviously in the pandemic, I have friends that have had problems with their businesses, or not necessarily problems, but they want to do something in their spare time. So I've done like little favors for little restaurants at home, and you know, done little videos like that. In early days of doing videos, I would definitely, when I first started charging, it was like, you know, a quarter of what I charge now. So yeah, that's starting out is definitely I can understand how it'd be hard to work out how much you want to charge as well, and how much you value what you're capable of doing as well. Like I never charged that much when I started, because one thing comes down to equipment. You know, I didn't have like the best equipment. I maybe had a DSLR and you know, and that was it, maybe just like a kit lens or something. So yeah, there's that, and there's the quality, the output quality. You've kind of got to look at your work critically, I guess. So I used to look at it and think, you know, it's okay, but then there'd be a lot of other stuff around that I could see as a lot better. So I tried to gauge the quotes off that. But I kind of got to the stage now after like 10, 11 years that I'm confident, and, you know, I kind of just know I'm going to do a good job. There's obviously the odd hiccup still, which is kind of nerve wracking, but yeah, for the most part, it's all right.
Okay, so that's interesting. And so we've touched on a couple of things there where, you know, maybe students won't realise that obviously there are a lot of different facets to the job rather than just the day-to-day bit. So with that in mind, I mean, could you give us a bit of a rundown of what I don't know if there is a typical day for you, but if there is a typical day, what it might look like?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely not a typical day at the moment. But, you know, I mean, looking at my diary before, so let's say like this week, I just have edits for clients here and there, which I can, you know, I've said, oh, I'll have an edit of this, something that we shot a while ago to you at a certain point. So it might be, you know, I have like an office in my house, which is also like, you know, a good tip that I didn't do for years is to have a separate workspace away from like your bed, which is, it sounds kind of obvious, but it for creativity and, you know, going to a place of work is quite important. So I'll do that and answer some emails, get started on some edits, and then, you know, stuff gets booked in. Like I just had something come in about an hour ago. So I spoke with someone who's doing an app basically that's to do with like table service. So okay. When you go into a pub and you kind of order off your phone and you pay off your phone and stuff like that. Sure. So it's an advert for that. So that's kind of a typical thing, is things come in like that, you know, and like some days are weird. Like some days loads comes in and it feels good, but then you might have, you know, as a self-employed sole trader, and this is why people either don't do the job or get worried sometimes, is you might have like a month or two where literally nothing comes in. And that's where I find people start to hustle a little bit, which is known as like hustling in the photo and video like world as well, is like, you know, you might see, that's when I guess videographers start offering deals and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that sort of thing going on during the pandemic with
definitely
various industries. And I think that's the same across the board, isn't it? It's a good lesson to learn that obviously when times are good and when things are rolling well, you know, things might sort of drop into your inbox and you've got work there. But it's also good to know how to be proactive, isn't it, at times when you need to be.
Yeah, what I will say as well is obviously the bigger clients I have obviously don't, you know, I have a rate that I feel I'm comfortable with and stuff, and they never have a problem with that, obviously, because they're big companies. But I do I do change like a lot of the things. So say I have like a local vegan restaurant in Blackpool where I live, I'm not going to, it sounds weird, but I'm not going to charge them the same as I charge like Royal Caribbean.
It's not going to be a corporate rate, yeah.
No, and it's not, there are, there are reasons for that as well, because obviously, I mean, not that you'll be delivering to a higher standard, but I guess, the big corporate clients, you've got that support with them, they might want stuff doing in all sorts of ratios when you're exporting, and it's kind of just different. Whereas if I'm going to a little restaurant in Blackpool, it's around the corner from my house, I go in for a couple of hours, hang out with whoever it is, film some stuff, and then send them an edit over. So same with bands, everyone knows that bands haven't really got any money, like up and coming bands, so there's that as well. I'm not, it's a weird thing, because you would have thought the same, it's the same thing. You're still going to film for a day, but I don't know. It's just the way it is. These bigger companies, they can afford it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. So let's just kind of step back a little bit then, and kind of talk about how you came to get to the point where you are in your career. So what sort of path did you take? Because I know sometimes students are interested in sort of the different pathways that you can take to get to, to be at a point in your career where you are getting some of that, those big jobs in. So I'm interested to hear kind of your story and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, for sure. I dropped out of school in year 10, which at the time, like, at that age, I wasn't overly fussed about, but then soon realized that I would, have to earn money some way, and started working minimum wage jobs, etc. I went to college for the first time to do, I guess it was an FD at the time, which is what you do before like a national diploma in the early 2000s. So yeah, I just kind of worked up doing that, but I was mostly doing like audio stuff. Like I'd do like live sound engineering or something like that for 50 quid a night or something. And I'm just thinking, like, I guess my college course was probably media, so it's probably music and filming, and kind of an all-encompass sort of course.
Yeah.
So I did so an FD, an ND, and then a HND, but I think the HND was it was more music focused. I think I only ever filmed because we were in bands, so it was like we just filmed our own music videos. I never thought it'd become a job, which is interesting.
So it's kind of a necessity to start with, then, I guess.
Yeah, just because it's cheaper, because we've got our own camera, so we'll film it ourselves. And that was the same for years as well. Like it was maybe only until after that HND that I guess I was probably just doing friends' bands' music videos and stuff like that, and like I said before, little by little it grew. To be honest with me, it was the reason why it grew was just through investing back into the company, into equipment. I know like equipment isn't everything, and that is true, but to a certain extent, some cameras, lenses, whatever, do look a lot better. So there is that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, mostly education anyway, up until that point, HND,
yeah,
and then just started, grafting, sound engineering on weekends, doing little music videos here and there. Mm-hmm. That's probably when I went self-employed, was when I finished my HND. So.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting to see as well. I know that looking back through some of your work, kind of going back and then up to now, I can see that, the quality obviously there, as you say, being able to invest back into the company in terms of upgrading equipment and spending more time on it, that I can, the show reel that's on the website, which I'll link to outside of the video. You can see the show reel, sort of the level of quality there is really high. And I guess maybe a lot, some of the jobs that come your way now, probably by word of mouth and by people looking at the show reel and things like that, perhaps, are they?
Yeah, I think pretty much all of the work I get now is word of mouth. Sometimes once a year, I'll do a bit of a push and I'll update the website, and I'll, maybe even spend some money on advertising or something like that. But loads of it's just word of mouth. I did a lot of wedding videos one year, probably like 12 wedding videos or something one year. And then that seems to have dried up, and it's sort of pivoted towards this corporate stuff I'm doing now. So it's always changing, but I would say for the students to know as well, to broaden your horizons. Like maybe maybe when I first started filming, my mindset was most likely, oh, I want to do cool music videos, you know, but that doesn't necessarily pay the bills. So I had to, not had to and didn't want to, but, you know, I started doing other things like weddings and stuff, like, which, you know, weddings is a long day, and it's, you know, depending on what type of person you are, it's not exactly like enjoyable, really. You know, it's, you don't know these people, so it's not like you've got any emotional attachment to it. You're there doing a job for, you know, 13 hours, and then the edit is massive. So, you know, pivot to pay the bills and stuff, really.
Okay, interesting. So, I mean, would you, I mean, you know, obviously based on everything you've said there, I'm sure there are some sort of little sort of diamonds as well in terms of tips that you could give to students. So, you know, is there anything in particular you would say that is worth focusing on that students might not have thought of, or anything you would say to do or not to do, anything to avoid, any pitfalls, anything like that?
My emails used to be terrible. My emails used to be, God, I don't even know now because I daren't even open them, but I probably, it's learning that formality of like how to write an email. You know, it's like, it's really important. And I do have some clients where I can say, oh, I'm super excited to do this, you know, like that sentence itself, whereas, you know, other clients that doesn't really work with. So yeah, I don't know, it's learning that level of professionalism that probably took me years, you know, little mistakes I made, like I remember once I overquoted for a job, and then that job just like never happened because the company emailed back and said, oh, you know, that's out of our price range, see you later.
Yeah.
Which was a weird one and has never happened before or since, but that was kind of a mistake on my part, maybe just going in with a figure instead of kind of you know, offering other options would have probably been a better way to do that. But I would say the number one thing is just the professionalism of emails. No kisses on the end of emails. No, but that sounds silly, but that's the thing that people automatically do sometimes, you know, by accident. You know, no slang in the emails. You know, that was probably something else. Also, all sounds like obvious, but to put it into practice is it's difficult if you're not used to that, which I definitely wasn't used to that. So
yeah, no, I think that's something that we do. You know, we hear sort of from students across the different faculty areas. We do, that is feedback that we get sometimes, and obviously students ask about. It's definitely worth mentioning that. You know, we talk about it a lot with students in terms of applying for jobs and writing applications, about trying to pitch the level of what you're saying to, you know, to the client or to the employer appropriately. So I guess it's, as you say, it's about being adaptable to the client and just being flexible really in terms of, you know, the way you communicate with potential customers and other employers. And I think also, as you say, just, you know, being aware of how you come across, isn't it, on the other end, is you might think the way that you're communicating with a client or a customer or an employer is suitable, but you have to really think about sometimes this, you know, they don't really know you as well as you might expect them to. So it's kind of about just coming across, putting your best foot forward, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and just being clear in what you write, you know, stuff like slang and sarcasm doesn't translate well into text. So yeah, just being to the point and clear and polite, you know, as well. Like politeness goes a long way for sure. But yeah, definitely stuff like that helps a hell of a lot.
That's great. Okay, so that's really interesting. I think, I mean, probably as we come to the end here, really, what I would tend to ask people is there anything in particular that you think students should look into that haven't before, in terms of sort of online resources that you found helpful, or any courses or books that you would recommend reading, any websites, YouTube channels, anything like that you would want to recommend?
Loads. I think if any of the students are really interested in photography or video, then you should already be geeking out on YouTube and looking at new camera reviews, lens reviews, like, you know, like this camera versus that camera. That's what I did for years. And, you know, YouTube's there and it's free and it's there for you to use. So, I mean, for video and photography, there's one called DSLR Noob, which is on YouTube. He's really good because he does like budget type stuff. So it's not all cinema cameras that are like 50 grand. It's like affordable. Yeah, there's a few like I think the guy's called Jack Kingsley or something on YouTube, but there's a load of getting started in the videography world kind of master classes. One of them that I took his main advice was to home in on one thing, which is the opposite of what I've done. So he said to, if you're doing wedding videos and music videos and stuff, just concentrate on one thing and do it well. I mean, I guess that's all well and good if you've got that much work coming in, but I definitely don't do that. And to be honest, the corporate work that I do, even though it might not be as creative as like a cool music video, one sort of pays for the other in a way. So that's the way I see it anyway. But yeah, loads on YouTube, DSLR Noob. He's a great one for equipment. What's that guy called? I think just Newman Films. Okay. He does loads. Yeah, Newman Films is awesome. He does loads of cinema looking stuff, but on cameras like the ones that I use, which are, camera bodies that are maybe around the £2,000 mark. Okay. So yeah, everything's on there on YouTube for you to go with. And like I say, if you're super interested in it, you should already be doing that. So.
Okay. Well, that's great to know. I mean, we'll probably do a bit of a follow-up after this, and I'll try and get some of those resources together from you. We can put them kind of underneath or next to the video as well. Okay,
yeah,
well,
sure.
I mean, that's kind of really it. I mean, what I will say is, obviously, for any students that have been listening, if there's anything that you found that, Bobby's mentioned that you weren't kind of aware of before, that you've got any follow-up questions on, obviously do speak to Emma, your achievement coach, and she'll be able to help you with that, and then possibly might be able to do a bit of follow-up at some point if he's got time. I know he's very busy, but yeah, obviously, anything that you think of that's kind of comes to mind as well, this, then obviously just flag us, and then we'll look to try and sort of answer any follow-up questions you've got. Thanks very much, Bob. Cheers for your time.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone.